Oh yeah, like when I tried to watch Fallout, I had to watch the first episode of Fallout 3 times because the first 2 times I watched it, I was watching that after a night out with a drink, and I just kept going, man, Ella Purnell is so fucking attractive, and then forgetting what happened.
Okie dokie.
So far away, Lucas, and lovely audience at home, welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekend, a series where I, your host of this episode, Karl Smallwood, scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a wiki on a subject we're interested in, and bring it forward for discussion to see what kind of conversation arises as a result. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And the topic of today's video has been decided upon in part by our audience at home, and today we're talking about a bad horror movie. So far away, Lucas, before we get into that, could you just explain to the audience at home how they could influence the making of a future episode by joining our Patreon?
Yeah, of course. We have multiple tiers, but if you go to the voting tier or above, which I believe is like at roughly the $5 range, and you can then go to our monthly polls that we put up. We put up an individual poll each, so there'll be one poll for like a video on Karl to discuss and another topic for myself to discuss. And you get 2 votes every single month to decide what we're going to talk about.
Yes, and the vote I put forward for this month's episode was a really bad horror, action, comedy, or drama movie. And our audience decided on a bad horror movie. And I've decided to just interpret that prompt a little differently to how you might expect. Because if I picked an actual really, really bad, like, I'm talking like 1 star on Amazon bad horror movie, the wiki page that I'd be looking at would be 1 sentence long, if it existed at all.
There are over 50 kinds of navel oranges. The ones in Florida are my favorites.
Mommy!
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Yeah, there's plenty of those, like, weird student, like, not even B movies that are, like, horror films shot
below
on
B
$100 budgets that are like actually just terrible films, right?
Yeah, and are so terrible that almost nothing has been written about them online, especially not on something like Wikipedia. So instead, I've picked a horror series that I'm a fan of, but it's not necessarily got the best reputation, and there are good parts and bad parts. And that series is the VHS series.
Guys, come on!
So Lucas, how familiar are you with the VHS series, which I'm a big fan of because I love horror. I've actually watched a lot of horror, including a bunch of really, really bad horror movies. Not like cheesy bad, not B-movie bad. I mean just actual, as I said, like 1 star on Prime bad movies. And I think the quintessential example I can use here is a film called Bone Breaker, which has a fairly standard premise for a horror slasher movie. Get it, slash horror movie.
I had a problem with poachers for a while, so it wasn't safe. Then I tried renting it to campers and to paintballers, but they all made a mess.
And the premise is, hey, some people are in the woods and they get chased by a serial killer who attacks people with a sledgehammer, and they specifically break people's legs and watch them crawl through the woods as they hunt them. The problem is that the acting is terrible, it's filmed on what appears to be some guy's iPhone, and the villain is like someone's mum.
Look. Poachers. Missing hikers. Happy campers. Family business.
This is the thing, right? There's bad in terms of like mainstream bad, and then there's actual things that deserve like a 1 or 2 out of 10 rating. Like, people will be like, oh, the new Call of Duty shit is a total like 1 star game. No, it's not. It's still competently made. It's got great visuals, audio. You might just not like it.
Yes. But to call it like a 1 star game when there's like the shovelware on Steam, for example, it's like people don't know what bad really is because generally most people don't go out of their way to seek out and consume bad media. And even if they do, some of the, like even stuff like B movies still has value. right? And
Yeah.
it'll be a 3 or 4 out of 10. But like there are the true 1 stars, but no fucker writes about them, so they won't have wiki pages.
No.
Whereas the VHS series does have its own wiki entry because it's an anthology series and it's gone on for a long time. And among those like little shorts, those vignettes, some of them are good, some of them are great, some of them not so great. So I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to talk about one of my favourite subgenres of horror, which is the short horror movie.
Give me a second, fool.
I have mentioned many a time that I'm not particularly a fan of horror movies. I play some horror games because, like, I feel a bit more in control of the action and therefore the horror. But yeah, horror movies are not really for me, so I'm not familiar with many horror films at all, let alone short horror movies. But what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about the VHS series, and people are unfamiliar with the VHS series. I have like the wiki entry on it here now. So this is the first movie. VHS is a 2012 American anthology horror film created by Brad Miska and Bloody Disgusting. So that's like a website that primarily talks about all things horror. It features a series of found footage shorts directed by David Bruckner, Ty West, Glenn MacLeod, Joe Swanberg, and the filmmaking collective Radio Silence, as well as a frame narrative that links all of the segments together, directed by Adam Wingard. And that's the thing about the VHS series, where it largely exists just as a show reel for up-and-coming filmmakers, writers, producers, directors, that sort of thing. And some of the shorts are really, really, really well made. Some of them not so much. And some of them have got really interesting ideas. Because one of the reasons I love horror so much, and I love horror as a genre, is because it's so broad. Because what's scary, Lucas? Right? Anything can be scary, right? People are scared of fucking clowns. I'm not scared of clowns. There are plenty of clown horror movies out there.
If you should die before you wake.
Can't sleep. Clown will eat me.
But if I say to you something that I'm not afraid of, though, Karl, spiders.
And one of the reasons I love short horror movies so much is because often horror movies, especially not very well made ones, I'm talking like, you know, your 5, your 6 out of 10s, like Paranormal Activity, for example, didn't need to be 90 minutes. Like, you could have told the story of Paranormal Activity in 30 minutes, 20 minutes. You could have told it in 10 minutes. And I know this because people out there have told very well-made, competently shot horror stories in 10 minutes. And I've got a few examples listed in front of me now that I'll share after, we get your thoughts, Lucas.
I was going to say, with Paranormal Activity, I saw a couple of trailers for that. Was that? Yeah, I think I get it.
Yep.
That seems like enough of that movie to kind of understand what's scary and what's good about that movie.
Yeah. That's the thing about a lot of horror movies, where they just don't have the staying power to sustain interest for 90 minutes, 2 hours. But usually there's the kernel of a good idea there, and that's one of the reasons I like horror as a genre. It's very experimental, because anything can be scary. It tends to be quite cheap, which results in a lot of horror movies being made. And as mentioned, I'm a fan of short horror movies, including the VHS franchise, and I've got the wiki in front of me, and we'll go through some of the notable shorts from the VHS franchise. Again, I'm not saying the VHS franchise is a terrible horror series, it's just that some of the ideas are better executed than others. And something I thought we could do, Lucas, is I am aware of a roughly 1.5 minute long horror short that I would like you to watch, and we can get your live reaction if you'd be okay doing that.
I would be, and I do want to mention that as well, it did, not being a connoisseur of horror, I'd say, a little thing twigged in the back of my head, and I was like, pretty sure I have heard of VHS, and turns out that Alana Pierce, who I follow through their journalism and game dev side of things and YouTube side of things, they were one of the people on one of the short movies in VHS Beyond, which came out last year. So I knew I'd heard about this franchise at some point.
And due to the way VHS movies are framed, it's just you need a short wraparound story, and then you can have like 4 or 5 or 6 completely unrelated shorts, varying in length and quality.
Mm-hmm.
And as the series has gone on, it's a really good series that I like to follow because just, hey, you get 5 horror movies in one. Like, there's a good friend of mine with whom I watch horror movies every now and again. And we love the VHS series because we effectively get to watch 5 movies in a row.
Yeah.
Unlike when you're watching like a full-length horror movie, if you're like me, you like watching your bad horror movies and like, you know, your cheesy B movies, as mentioned, sometimes they overstay their welcome and just by the 40-minute mark you're bored. That doesn't happen with like stuff like VHS because none of the shorts are longer than 40 minutes.
Get down on the ground! Get down!
Gentlemen.
And that's kind of why I like the opposite of I really enjoy a couple of like horror games here and there. I do love the Resident Evil and Dead Space franchises for the most part, and I also just really enjoy some of the better games that Supermassive have put out, like Until Dawn and The Quarry, where I get to interact with the story. And every time you like are watching one of those horror movies of like, don't open the door, you dumbass. Like, you actually get to be that person that's, I'm not going to open the door.
Yeah, but then the game won't continue. And Lucas, are you ready to watch a roughly 1.5 minute long horror movie and offer your live commentary?
I'm a little bit anxious, but I'll do it for you, Karl.
Okay, so what I've done is I have like fast forwarded like a minute or so into a short anthology that's about 10 minutes long, and it's a series of like short horror movies called Intruders. You have like full credits below, and depending on like how much of a bear like the copyright robots on YouTube want to be, I'll either put like a small section in the corner of what Lucas is seeing or the full thing. And Lucas, you feel free to offer your commentary as and when it's relevant, and I'll watch it along with you so I know when to like, you know, stop like this recording section. But are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. What does that say there? Just like something about Scream Fest Award, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, so as I said, this is one part of a short horror vignette called Intruders. Link to it below. But Lucas, let me know when you press play on the section I've like timestamped.
It's automatically playing ads for me.
Okay, well let's wait for you to get through. That's the real scariest part, right?
Yeah,
That's
that is like I'm not logged into my personal account that has YouTube Premium on the Wiki Weekends account.
I will never stop being pissed off. YouTube, give me YouTube Premium for free. I've made you hundreds of thousands of dollars, give me it for fucking free.
Like, give Wiki Weekends the thing that gets you like thousands and thousands of views every week. Give us, at some point when you get monetized, your channel that you're making content on should just get YouTube Premium.
I don't understand why it's not a thing, but let me know when you're ready to press play.
And the answer is also just, I'm not going to get mad if someone skips like an hour-long advert before our video.
Someone's mentioned that on Discord, right? Like, I got an hour-long ad in against one of your videos. Like, you can skip that one.
Yeah,
I'd skip that
please.
one. I skip ads sometimes in the videos that I'm fucking in. Right?
I'll give you a countdown so you can just time things up.
Yep.
And start at 3 minutes 13 because it just started auto-playing.
Okay.
So I will click play in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Just react however you feel is appropriate, Lucas.
Okay.
We know a reaction
right
channel.
now, we're just, you know, having a spy on some other people's houses or flats, is that right?
Like I said, it's a very simple concept. Minute long.
Okay. Oh no. Oh, the spying. Okay, just Oh, I thought it was like spying on people having sex. They might have been spying on vampires. Think it was a vampire, and they're just gonna show up at the door and be like, "Can I come in, please?" Is that no? No, you're not allowed in. I'm not inviting you inside. Oh shit, they're just like full on just sprinting across the street. Like, you've got all the time in the world to think about a plan for this. And this kid is just stood on the back. Again, it frustrates me to no end. The like idea of like flight or fright or freeze, and just I'm gonna stand here and do nothing about this.
And that was, what, a minute, 30 seconds? You got an entire story told there in a minute, 30 seconds. And obviously, you've got me off to the side, you're watching it in the middle of the day. It's still, I think, very affecting imagery there. Like, for example, the idea of, like, spotting something through, like, you know, a window that you're not supposed to see is a classic trope. It's by no means original. Like, Rear Window was doing that, like, back in, like, the 40s, I think. Right? But...
Yeah, I really like and dislike in the sense of it makes me feel uncomfortable. Just the idea that, like, you might just observe something that you're not meant to.
Yeah, like I said, it's not exactly an original trope, but I do think there's elements of originality in there. For example, the fact that when the kid looks down, you just see the entity, whatever it is, sprinting at full fucking whack directly towards where he is.
Yeah.
That's actually really effective. And I don't recall ever seeing that in another horror movie dealing with what, as I said, is a very classic trope.
So immediate, right? Is like a lot of the time you would think you've got more than a minute to think about things and just plan something out. Maybe there's some plotting on the other entity side, etc., etc. Just there was no hesitation. Just seconds after they'd seen it happen, is like, fuck it. It's already running at me. What am I meant to do here?
So that's like a minute and a half long, and they've told a complete story in that 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple story, but it's a complete story. And that's like, there are other shorts that I'll mention like later, but you know, we'll go back to VHS now. So since the film's release, it's become a cult classic and can be attributed to bringing attention back to the anthology horror film subgenre. Additionally, a couple of the shorts featured in the series, particularly Amateur Night and Safe Haven, have received critical acclaim and are considered to be, by many, the standout examples of what found footage horror can be. Are you familiar at all with Amateur Night? Because I think Amateur Night is the one where there's some effects in there that are a bit hokey, but as mentioned, it has very unsettling imagery, and the found footage style is really, really useful at covering for what would otherwise be limitations. For example, either in like special effects, because you can just like, well, you've got a person holding a camera, just have them freak the fuck out and drop the camera, right? You don't need to show the effect anymore.
Oh God! Help me! Please get me out of here!
Yeah, I mean, a great example of that is Cloverfield, right? Where just the amount of times where it kind of shakily looks at these kaijus, but just kind of you get a vague idea of what is going on as someone is panicking and shaking the camera around, rather than needing to have like fully realised high budget effects.
Yes, there's also as well, by using the found footage like format, it's really easy to get people to feel uneasy because you're viewing it through somebody else's eyes. So the immediacy of what's happening in the situation is a lot easier to empathise with and relate to. And in regards to one of them, Amateur Night, it's the format as well works because they contextualise why it's in found footage, because that's like a thing. If you watch a lot of horror movies like myself, you might find yourself asking, well, why are they still fucking filming? And the one film I think gets away with just having the people never stop fucking filming is the first found footage movie people probably think of, The Blair Witch Project, which isn't the first found footage movie. There was earlier ones before that, like Cannibal Holocaust and stuff, but it's the first one that really popped off in the mainstream. And you get away with having your main characters never stop filming because they're pretentious film students. And of course they never stop filming because they think everything they're filming is important. Even the most mundane detail.
much like a small, quiet town anywhere. No more than 20 families laid their roots here over 200 years ago, many of whom remain, either on this hill or in the town below. There are an unusually high number of children laid to rest here.
You actually see that in real life nowadays, is a lot of the time people would say, like, watch a Cloverfield and be like, holy shit, why are these people still filming? Like, would you not just put the camera down? And the answer is a lot of people would, but there are going to be some people that don't. Similar to how, you know, there are people out there that put themselves in precarious positions for the sake of content, quote unquote, and never fucking stop filming.
And in regards to the short Amateur Night, the way they get around having the main character film the entire time is that there are some dude bros who are going to sexually assault some women. And one of the characters is wearing glasses that have cameras in them. And they're trying to, like, skis on some women in a bar, bring them back to their hotel room, and then have sex with them.
Man, I'm real glad that those kind of things don't exist in real life. Oh,
Or arseholes who would assault women. Yeah. But...
Oh, I was more referring to glasses that are like maybe some kind of band, like maybe some kind of brand like Ray-Ban or something that just had like hidden cameras inside of them, and you could cover up a light to tell anyone that it was recording. Like, that'd be really creepy if anything like that existed.
Yeah, and people like wearing them into bathrooms and changing rooms and stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, this is a thing that, like, you know, we shouldn't really sell without a license, something like that. And that's what the short kind of deals with. It makes you feel very uncomfortable, right? Because you are watching things that you're not supposed to be seeing.
She's done, dude. She's done. Don't do it. Stop now. Hey.
The acting is not great, but I will give props to, like, you know, the female actors in the scene for convincingly playing being drunk. And it is very uncomfortable when some of the male characters in the short start getting a little bit too handsy, a little bit aggressive. And the summary of the short is, one of the girls they end up bringing back to their hotel room turns out to be not what she appears.
Maybe as vampire?
Maybe as vampire. I like you too. And I will give props to the actress who plays, like, you know, the character who is not what they appear, because they have a very, very interesting look. Like, to the point where, like, that you see them appear in the background of a couple of scenes before they get introduced properly, and they immediately catch your eye. Do you like one of those people where you look and go, who's that? Who is that lady? Mm-hmm. Right there. Because they just look so distinct.
Or just, like, you know, the way that the hair's done and the makeup's done and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, well, she has, like, ridiculously expressive eyes.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of the kind of shock moment I had where I remember you talking about the Fallout TV show and how kind of you described Ella Purnell as, like, distractingly attractive in that show.
Oh yeah, like when I tried to watch Fallout, I had to watch the first episode of Fallout 3 times, because the first 2 times I watched it, I was watching that after a night out with a drink, and I just kept going, man, Ella Purnell is so fucking attractive, and then forgetting what happened.
Okie dokie.
And I then saw her in a trailer for something else where she's like, you know, this kind of, she's clearly meant to be this most normal person on Earth kind of role, and just the way that they kind of dress her down and don't do much with her makeup and stuff, is she looked like a really regular person that I didn't even recognize as being the same actor. Like, it's really just incredible what people can do to change the way that they look.
Yes, and like, speaking of Ella Purnell, like, one of the roles that I didn't realise she was in, because it was before she was even, like, known as a person, like, she's had a random role in Kick-Ass 2, and she's one of, like, the asshole cheerleader girls who gets stuck with, like, the sick stick. And she's in the scene for, like, 10 seconds and never says a word. And I remember, like, rewatching that to grab a clip for an episode and went, hang on, that's Ella Purnell!
Yeah, it's always fun when you see those interviews of, like, actors revealing what roles they were in before they got famous and stuff. Like, I always remember an interview Simon Pegg just mentioning, like, an advert that he was in for like a serial or something that was his first role.
Hello. No, I can't come into work today. I'm in bed. The cough, it's better. The buttercup was brilliant. Yeah.
It's like there's a Johnny Knoxville like advert that he was in, and whenever you point it out, and I'll put the advert in, you always think, oh, is Johnny Knoxville like the guy he's like a toothpaste or like chewing gum ad? And you think he's going to be the dude who's like skeezing on the girl with like, oh, he takes a bite of the chewing gum and she immediately wants to kiss him. It's like, no, he's like right at the very end for 1 second as the guy who's cleaning her car.
Yeah, and I had a kind of like weird shock moment watching Bean the movie, I think it is, where Johnny Galecki, like
he plays the
guy
asshole
from Big
character,
Bang
right?
Theory, he plays like the badass biker boyfriend that's like, you know, the bad influence on their daughter as they drive off into the distance together. It's like, really? The guy who plays like Leonard in Big Bang Theory, who's like the badass biker character.
That's what he speaks to his like talent and range as an actor, doesn't he? But yeah, there's plenty of like roles like that, and I just have in front of me now like the IMDb pages for all the VHS movies. For anyone curious about like the overall quality, it's like they range in ratings on IMDb at least from like 6 stars to 6.5, with the lowest being like 4.1. And there are multiple versions of the film. And like obviously individual shorts can be rated highly and some not so much. But yeah, it's like a series that has an average of like 6 out of 10, which I'd consider to be bad by Hollywood standards, because a 6 out of 10 is forgettable. And the only reason VHS isn't forgettable is just the format allows for there to be interesting moments even in an otherwise not that memorable product.
Yeah, it's similar to how you talk about Black Mirror, and like Black Mirror is an anthology series, and yeah, each episode is a full episode rather than a mini-series or anything, but just the fact that a season of Black Mirror can become memorable because of like maybe just one episode that happens to strike, and pretty much every season of Black Mirror there's at least one episode that everyone's like, holy shit, this is the thing.
Stay the fuck back! I'll kill him! I'll cut his head off and stick it on my ass!
That was one episode that pops off, isn't there? And that's the thing about like Black Mirror. It's an anthology series, you said. I'm a big fan of Black Mirror. I think just some of the elements introduced in there are really uncomfortable. Like I talked about short films, like having like affecting moments that stand out even if the overall quality of the thing isn't that great. And I think it's like, Black Mirror, like you mentioned, like actors who like popped off, like Alex Lawther from like, I think it's the actor's name, who he's like the kid in Shut Up and Dance, who he's in that, and like just you see that episode, you see that like kid's performance, you're like, he's gonna fucking go places.
I only looked at pictures and
beat one off on camera. That's what they got, yeah? Your hot little face, blurred fist, dick burping fucking spunk everywhere. Your mum's gonna love that on Facebook, Twitter, Insta fucking whatever. And her friends, all eyes on you, giving it that.
Just from his performance in that episode, and it turns out, yeah, he's in fucking Star Wars and stuff now. Or you have like 5,000 Merits, which is Daniel Kaluuya, right?
Yeah.
He's in that.
There's Donald Gleeson, who was in an earlier one. John Hamm was in an episode where he was only just starting to pop off.
Yeah, like John Hamm was in an episode because he was a fan. You have a Letitia Wright in an episode before like she pops off.
Russell Wyatt, another one, US agent now.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like, because these anthology shorts, that you don't need that much time to make them. Still, you need time. There's effort there, but you don't need the actor for as long as you need them for like a movie shoot. You need them for like, the equivalent like making an episode of a TV show, which can be like instead of it being several months, several days.
What the fuck?
Danny, said you gotta brace yourself.
Karl?
Crazy shit, huh?
Or weeks or whatever, but yeah, it's not as involved a process as making an entire movie, even though basically a lot of them are short films.
Yeah, and also as well, like sometimes it lets actors just act outside of their usual established range. Right, like John Hamm getting to play an arsehole character in like White Christmas.
It's a game! It's a fucking game!
And before we move on, another anthology series I'd like to draw attention to, if anyone out there is unfamiliar with it, because it's fucking awesome, is Inside Number 9. which is an anthology series written in part by Steve Pemberton, one of my favourite writers/actors. And it is just an anthology series. They range in tone from like outright humorous to legit fucking terrifying. And the only connective thread between every single episode is the number 9. And I'll draw like particular attention to the episode on crosswords, just because it's probably one of the most well-written things I've ever seen. Because the entire thing is written, all the dialogue is crossword clues.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And they got like an actual, I'm not sure what the term is for like someone who's like an expert on crosswords, but they got someone in to make sure all the dialogue can like cross-referenced as a crossword puzzles and clues would be. And it's just fantastically well acted. And I'll just recommend it out there. Like, you know, if you want to watch, like, you know, you've got 30 minutes to spare, you want to see something fucking weird, go watch Inside Number 9.
Yeah, I've not watched that one myself.
I would recommend. And, like, you know, would you like some other recommendations now? Because what I did last night is I tracked down some other short horror movies that I'm a fan of to get, like, you know, their titles and share the premise with people, because I don't want to put too many clips in of these things. Like, I'll put clips in to show you what they are, but I don't want to spoil them, because effectively, with them only being like 9 to 10 minutes long in some cases, I could spoil the entire thing very easily by telling you what the twist is. So instead, I'm going to like give you like a vague description of a couple of these, put in like, you know, a few seconds to show you what it is so you can find it on YouTube after you've like typed it in or click the link to know, and leave it at that. So would you like some other examples, Lucas?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, so one I would really like to recommend is Curve. And Curve is what I like to describe as a film student movie. I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in the sense that you can watch it, it's 10 minutes long, it's about a lady trapped on a curve. That's it, it's just a giant concrete curve that leads to just an endless void. That's it. And
on a curve?
On a big curve, a big concrete curve. That's it. And I call it a film student movie because you can watch it, be really affected by how good the acting is, because, like, you know, it's one lady acting to herself, and after it's finished, you can just sit down and go to the person next to you. So what do you think it means? And there's no right or wrong answer to it. And I love, like, horror for that. That's why I like, you know, me and my friend who watch a lot of horror movies, when we watch VHS movies, we usually stop after one of the shorts, grab a drink, and say, okay, what do you think of it? What do you think it means? Or if it sucks, it's like, well, that sucks, let's put another one on.
Yeah, fair.
Well, I'll put that one in. I'd like recommend people go like check that if they can. Another one I'd like to recommend is Portrait of God, which I similarly refer to as a film student, like, you know, short. And I just think it has a very interesting premise. The premise is, it's a young girl doing a presentation on the idea that there's a portrait in which you are purported to be able to see an image of God.
What does God look like? I'm going to show you a painting, or rather, a photograph of a painting. Just take a moment and stare at it. What do you see?
Another one I'd like to recommend is The Chair. I can't really describe it without spoiling it, so I'll just say it has some really, really good acting. And it's also just the premise really fucked me up. Because keep in mind, I was watching these yesterday before I went to sleep. So do you understand? I didn't sleep well.
Oh, God.
So I watched like the equivalent of like 15 horror movies in a row before I went to bed.
Probably not the best idea.
Ah, it's fine. I like horror movies.
I do not want that thing in my house anymore. Get it out. Okay, you don't even like stuff like this.
Okay, well, it grew on me. Am I allowed to change my mind? Hello?
Wait, what?
What?
What did you just say?
One final one I'd like to recommend for now is The Other Side of the Box, which is, I've already talked about, you know, horror movies not being that original, but still having original elements in them. And it's just a really good take on that classic horror trope of the thing moves when you, like, don't look at it.
Just for a second. Okay, we need to know what we're dealing with. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Well, I still have one experience that apparently is explainable, but, you know, you always keep that element of doubt in your head. And just, I had a plate that was on, like, a countertop, the countertop was still a little bit wet, and I like turned around to grab something from like a cupboard, and all I heard was like the plate scratching across the surface. And I turn around, and it's like literally by itself, just like moving towards the sink. And that obviously made me feel very uncomfortable. I then started like Googling shit, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, like due to the kind of like
water,
the fact that the surface is wet, and I can't remember exactly what the explanation was, but just like I get things like have a chance of just moving across wet surfaces even without like the help of gravity, just due to like certain forces and stuff. But it's still very unsettling to just turn around and see a plate just edging itself towards the sink by itself.
Yeah, it can fuck you up. Right? I think to a story told by my mum. So I was like, I don't believe in like ghosts and ghouls and stuff like that. I'm fascinated by the concepts, and I love horror movies and watching horror movies, largely because I just like interesting premises, and especially like stuff like VHS, where it's like, well, I get to watch 5 in one go. That's fucking sick. It's like someone who like, you know, just absolutely adores just getting through as much media as they can as quickly as possible. If all the like if all the movies are 20 minutes long, that's fucking sick. Well done, me. But my mum swears blind that this happened, and I'm inclined to believe my mum. I don't know what it is that she saw, but I'm inclined to believe her version of events, and it's fucking freaky the way she tells it. And it is that after my grandma passed away, like just a bunch of weird stuff happened. And just to set the scene here, my mum had a very problematic pregnancy with my younger sister, and while this was all happening, my grandma was in the hospital dying. And just for no reason the doctor seems to be able to explain, she just wouldn't go. And my mum was insisting that the reason she doesn't want to go is because she wants to see your sister. She wants to see Jamie. And my grandma passed away while my mum was like, you know, experiencing the aforementioned problematic birth and pregnancy. And, like, you know, my sister was in the hospital for a while. And the day that my mum brought my sister home, she was about to walk into the house, and then all the lights started flipping the fuck out. Like, the entire house, every light in the house just started going absolutely ape shit. And my mum just ran out of the house terrified. It's like, it's my mum, she's come to see her. Like, it's my mum, please get rid of her. And my sister's dad went into the house and screamed at the top of his voice, Tammy, my granny's name, like, you're scaring your daughter. Everything's okay, you can go. Fuse blew, everything went out. At the same time that was happening, my auntie and my granddad experienced the exact same thing. And there's probably a logical explanation for how that happened. But if I was... Oh, sorry, no, my camera just stops it. And there's probably a logical explanation for what happened there, but if that happened to me, I might be a fucking believer.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? Is just... I'd say I'm still skeptical about what happened to myself, even though it's a very more minor thing.
Yes.
But as much as someone like can explain X and Y to you, just it's still a weird thing to turn around and see something completely, with our own perception, unexplainable.
Yeah, it's one thing to like have someone tell you like, well, here's the logical explanation for how this thing happened. It's another thing to experience it. Right? And it's like, that's what you often hear from people when they encounter like, you know, ghosts or aliens or paranormal phenomenon. Like, usually the response to this logical explanation for what they probably saw is like, you weren't there. I know what I saw. Right? And in that vein, there's some other shorts we can single out here. One of my favourites is Slumber Party Alien Abduction. Just because it's so simple a concept. There's no, like I mentioned a couple that I agree with, like film. These are film student like shorts where you can endlessly analyse them and what they mean. Like, there is no analysing what happens in Slumber Party Alien Abduction. Just a bunch of kids get abducted.
There was a slumber party and aliens turned up.
But I'll just give them props for doing a lot with very little.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, I did. Did you hear that?
What?
Yeah, and that's not everything has to be this like think piece, right? Just sometimes it can just be, fuck it, we've got 10 minutes to tell you like, or show you a harrowing story about some slumber party getting interrupted by aliens.
Yeah, and like I said, they do a lot with a little, and they clearly had like 3 rubber alien costumes, and they somehow made them look quite scary via well-worn filmmaking techniques, but still, like, I think employed and like effectively utilized. For example, like, you know, having like the slight Dutch angle as you see through a window of light coming through it, a dude who's quite tall wearing like a rubber alien costume running really fast past the window can be unsettling.
Stop playing around! Show your face is going to blow off!
So it wasn't as literal as just 3 little green men came in.
Oh, well, that's like, it depends. Like, go check out the short or like the clips I'm going to put in. And then another one that I would like to single out, and it was written and directed by Simon Barrett, and this is from VHS 94. And supposedly VHS 94 was filmed, the entire thing, in one hotel during COVID.
Okay.
And I will single out like The Empty Wake because it might feature one of the best zombie special effects I've ever seen. And there's a zombie who has half their head missing. And I remember when me and my friend were watching this, and we got to this short and the zombie showed up, and she leaned over and she paused the film and went, how did they do that? And we then spent the next like half an hour trying to figure out how they achieved the effect. If you can find it, and obviously again there are some techniques that are utilized to hide the limitations of presumably the effect and stuff like that, but I just think the zombie effect for the dude with half his head missing is fucking good. Which is incredibly well done. And I know how they did it. I know the guy's probably wearing a costume that has, like, you know, his head below like the shoulders where they are. It's just really, really well done. And I couldn't see the seams.
Which they had this cool mechanical fixture, so I removed that, painted out the background, and then put this this practical head in its place. And then
it seems to be a pretty crazy effect. Like, I say, just half of the head is not there.
Yeah, so I know how you would achieve effects like that, but I just think it's really, really well done, especially considering that it was written and directed and had like a skeleton crew of people who filmed it all in one room during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Which just makes it all the more impressive that I said it's one of the best zombie effects I've ever seen. And it was probably filmed for like, you know, $40. And like the Taco Bell it cost to, you know, like just get the guy through the recording session, right?
And that's the thing, right, is, you know, it sounds impressive hiring our hotel, but during COVID times, that must have been cheap as chips, because guess what? No one could use a fucking hotel.
Yep, and the other one I like to single out from 94 is Storm Drain. Fairly simple. It's pretty basic plot of like they go to the sewers looking for the guy known as Ratman. Like classic trope, right? Like there's some weird shit in the sewers. Let's go track it down and see what it is, and like just poke it with a stick. But I'll just single out the effect at the end where somebody just transforms and melts someone's face off, and it's probably one of the best face melting off effects I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of face melting off effects in a lot of movies, and I like, again, they film this for like $100. Fucking hell, that's really impressive.
It's the first day of fall, and there's no better way to kick off the season than with Westerville's 94th annual Pumpkin Festival. People are already lining up to Ratma the Hayride's Apple Ratma, and of course, to see who will be crowned the festival's largest Ratma.
Okay, why don't we cut to commercial? Jesus fucking Christ!
Karl, just on that list of episodes though, you didn't tell me that one of the like short stories in VHS Viral is called Bone Storm.
Bone Storm. Give me Bone Storm or give me hell. There's a lot. There's so many, and I can't like go through them all. But yeah, there's like some really interesting ideas in there. Like another one on like VHS 94 is, it's like, and I think just the way it's filmed is very realistic for what it's supposed to be, and it's purported to be found footage of like a homegrown like terrorist training camp in the US. But the twist is they're vampires. Maybe. So maybe it's vampire. And it's poor quality, admittedly, but it's just filmed in a very realistic way. Like, if you suspend your disbelief and you buy into the found footage format, you could believe you are watching found footage of what it's purported to be showing on screen.
Fuck this evil abomination. We are gonna go in there and we're gonna take this creature down.
We don't get in there before sundown, we're not gonna be able to do nothing, no ways.
This fucking thing's unstoppable at night, come on.
I'm still upset you hid Bone Storm from me.
Give me Bone Storm or give me hell. Well, maybe we could talk about it all another day. Because like I said, this is a 7-movie series now. I'd be more than happy to talk about more found footage horror movies and or short horror vignettes that I'm a fan of. But I've probably talked too much now. So if you are wanting to see more of this stuff, let us know in the comments below. Go down to our Discord, also found link below. Let us know your suggestions. Let us know what you think of the horror shorts. If any of them affect you in a particular way, or you think they are particularly effective in any specific regard, let us know. I'd love to hear it, and I'd also love to hear any more suggestions. Just a spoiler, if it's one of the ones that shows up when you Google horror movie shorts or horror movie found footage, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Try and find one I've not seen. I've seen it. I've seen it. This is what I do when I'm not recording. But yeah, big fan of all this stuff. Big fan of just interesting takes on what may be well-worn ideas, and would just highly recommend people go out there and just watch some horror.
And tell you what, don't be leaving any recommendations for me in the comments because I won't be watching them.
And I think just if anyone out there wants a written one as well, because there's one, because I've got a few examples here that I didn't get to. I singled out a few other shorts that are not necessarily horror, but deal with interesting premises. One is Lazy Boy, which I think is just an interesting take on time travel. Another one is, where is it here? Stuck, which I think is an effective, low-budget body horror movie, accomplished in less than 15 minutes, which has pretty good effects considering the scale of the production. So I'd recommend those two. I'd also like to recommend just the Stephen King short, The Jaunt, which is widely considered to be one of the most affecting short stories ever written. If anyone out there hasn't read it, I'd highly recommend.
The really scary part is the unknown, which lends itself to the idea of a short story where you don't need to explain everything. You need to leave things unknown.
And the more you explain it, the scarier it gets. It's why, one of the more frustrating things about when you consume a lot of media like this, short anthology horror movies and the or even just watching Black Mirror, where you have people asking I'd love to see a sequel to this Black Mirror episode. Why?
Mm-hmm.
The whole point is it makes you ask questions, and the more they explain about the universe, the less questions you can ask because you know the answer. I think in the latest season of Black Mirror, they're just doing a sequel to the USS Callister. It's I don't want to see that. I don't want to see what happened next because I'd like to imagine what happened next. Right? That's the appeal,
With that one specifically, I don't mind because I kind of do want to see what happens next. I
don't mind.
Kind of do want to see that character get their comeuppance, but the end of the USS Callister original episode is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, and it's this thing with horror where, as you mentioned, the scariest thing is the unknown, and the less it's explained, the scarier it is.
Well, Karl, it's once again time to just give everyone a shout out for supporting our content.
Yes, and we've got to hurry through the names this month because people have taken to heart the challenge we issued over in our Discord to come up with harder to pronounce and longer names as the name they want us to shout out in this end of video segment.
Yeah, of course. And Karl, I knew this was going to happen at some point of you shot yourself in the foot day one by being I'm going to find a funny clip for each of these things.
Yeah, and I'm still going to stick to that gimmick, but the clips might get more and more esoteric as we go along.
But anyway, we have not had anyone... We've had some min-maxing in terms of length of names and stuff. We've had no one min-max in the alphabetical order yet, so, we've had no names so far beginning with A or Z to make sure that they get Aaron A. Aronson into the top of the list.
Yeah, we haven't got anyone who's calling themselves Aaron A. Aronson, but we have got someone calling themselves B of Awesome with 3 B emojis following it, which I didn't even know was an option.
No.
Have you seen that? It's there's the iconic high school yearbook quote where the person's quote is just, "I bet you didn't know this was an option," and 50 fucking emojis in a row. So you know what? Be of Awesome, congratulations with the first person I've ever seen use emojis on Patreon.
Yeah, I didn't know it was an option either, but yeah, Be of Awesome followed by 3 little bees emojis.
Hey! Get off my sugar! Bad bees! Bad! Ow! Ow! Oh, they're defending themselves somehow!
I hope next month, if they continue to support us, it's like 10 bees. Just the number of bees grows with each passing month they support us, till they have the veritable bee army.
But speaking of another supporter who has been helping us out for a while now, we've got the lovely Dan Dilly. And much appreciated support, and hopefully we are now getting that name right.
Yeah, and it's great, because pronouncing it Dilly means that I can put in more clips of Ned Flanders saying Oakley Dokley.
And that's the thing,
or maybe even a clip from that band, that death metal band that dressed like Ned Flanders.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Oakley Dokley. But it's like, kill Dokley.
Oh, okay.
It's like they're a death metal band, so it's got the word kill in it.
God, yeah. And, to be fair, this doesn't necessarily sound like a metal band, but this name, for some reason, sounds a bit band namey to me, and that is from Fallopian Starship.
I'd listen to their album. I'd listen to their experimental prog rock album, right? Yeah. Fallopian Starship is a hell of a name.
Grand Funk Railroad paved the way for Jefferson Airplane, which cleared the way for Jefferson Starship. The stage was now set for
Fallopian Starship,
which I believe was some sort of hovercraft.
That is followed closely by Judge Dredd. And I'm scared, but I am glad that I get to put in more clips of the Judge Dredd movie. My favourite part is where it's like, how do people not know the Judge Dredd movie was a parody when he uses white phosphorus indoors?
Yeah, I mean, I guess people just go, oh, that's sick as fuck, like they did with Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
Incendiary.
But yeah, I'm always happy to put in more clips of Judge Dredd. And Lucas, should we both tackle this next name?
Oh, maybe we have to, because someone did literally min-max the character limit. They took that challenge seriously.
They did, and that person is Kicking Bucket Nose and Laments. The character limit for a Patreon display name is only 128 character. But it's like the R is cut off, so they ran out of letters at the last second.
I appreciate going as far as just not even finishing the word. Just fuck it, I've hit the character limit, we're done.
Well, listen to this one.
Kicking Bucket Nose and Laments. The character limit for a Patreon display name is only 128 character.
You didn't know I'm gonna say that, did you?
Yep, I'm just gonna type until Patreon tells me I can't type anymore. And who do we have next, my friend?
Someone who did not do that, but the support is still much appreciated, is Lam de Llama.
That's a hell of a name. That's great, because I put in a clip of a llama for that one.
Even though it's not spelt like llama, but I hope it's pronounced like llama. It looks like it should be, but I just like...
Oh, no, wait, mate.
The fact that...
Lucas, I could put in the clip, the llamas with hats. No!
Okay. When anyone says anything about llamas, my brain still just goes to Emperor's New Groove.
Okay, for me, because my name's Karl, it's just llamas with hats. The amount of times where I had a friend who would just call me on Xbox Live and just go, Karl, every time. It was never funny.
What happened to his
Lam de Llama?
Why are they missing?
Well, I kind of cooked them up and ate them.
Karl!
The next person we've got to shout out is, of course, Little Ghost.
I like that, Little Ghost.
Just a Little Ghost.
That's an album for a solo artist, right? Little Ghost.
I like that. Just Little Ghost. Thank you. It's much appreciated.
That's the thing. Is the ghost far away, or is it just really little?
Or, just like that Tamagotchi Life trailer where it's like, oh, they actually were big. They were just very far away.
Really far away, and you just hear the ground rumbling underneath. Well, the next person we have to shout out is Lucille de Steele. That's a name. That's a superhero name.
Yeah.
That's the kind of name that like Superman should have. To be more on the nose, right? Like de Steele.
De Steele, like.
Clark, this is important. You can get your mail later.
Yeah, but I'm expecting my cheese of the month shipment. I'll be right back.
Or you could just, I don't know whether it's any kind of One Piece reference where a lot of the main characters have D as their middle name. And they're people that matter kind of thing. But anyway, I won't get into spoilers for that. We next have to, of course, thank Tam McKee.
Yes, and like we are shouting you out, but you don't have a funny name.
Well, no,
So-
it's like that's like the Clark Kent, right? Of just like having an actual just normal name.
Or imagine being able to be magically whisked away to Delaware. Hi, I'm in Delaware.
And you know, the support and the help is still appreciated, but it's hard to riff on just someone's name.
It is.
Unless your name's like Smallwood like mine, then people can make fun of it all they want, right?
I was going to say, without just taking the piss out of people, right? Like, maybe it's one of those, but, you know, either way, as we say, the support is appreciated whether or not we can, like, riff on a silly name.
Yes, and speaking of riffing on a silly name, we have one final person to shout out, that is Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, fondue way to make day... This is spelled awkward. I'm going to put the spelling on screen. Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, fondue way to make the name longer. And it does say the name. It's like the name.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm pronouncing all of that correctly.
Now, D nice.
Do you mean Denise?
Son of a bitch. You say your name right now.
Denise?
Say it right.
Denise.
Correctly.
Denise.
Right.
Denise.
Right.
D-nice.
That's better. Thank you.
And I do appreciate they picked up that gauntlet I threw down and smacked me across the fucking face with it.
They did indeed. Just trying to make Carl's life that little bit harder, but thank you to everyone for your support. Like, you making, like, literally extra content happen, and you're keeping those wheels spinning, so it's...
You are indeed, yes.
It's really, really
I look
great.
forward to next month, when, like, as I said, people start putting kanji and shit in their names, and I've got to try and pronounce that. And what if someone's put like hieroglyphics or something, or like interpretive dance, or like put their name as like a series of instructions?
I do like that Carl keeps trying to make his life harder, because he's the one who, like, you know, edits this bit and puts all the clips in and stuff, and Carl, you know what, fuck me up.
Well, that's what, I appreciate the challenge, and hopefully we've risen to a challenge so far, so I look forward to seeing what our fans over on Patreon do for us next.
Hell goddamn yeah. Thank you one last final time for your support.
Yes, go out there and have a great day. Thank you very much.
Cheers.